So thanks everybody who was able to join us today. So today we'll be looking at exploring new pathways to finding courses on higher learning websites. This is something that came out of our last study that is an area that is going through a lot of change across a number of websites, but also in something that is very important in terms of helping to not only simplify journeys for prospective students, but in terms of how they present overall comparison of courses, as well as how that can aid in making their final decision for them. So just to give you some insight as to how we actually put together these stats, we start with really two sections of customer auditing. So we ask a number of customer behavioural questions and attitudinal questions. So with the behaviour, we actually ask them to go through a series of tasks which range from actually looking at how they rank the actual homepage of the site to then actually doing journeys as they go through the site. So starting to move through from the homepage or a landing page through to the actual course pages and study pages. We then combine this with an audit of features and functions within a website. So this is a list of set criteria that has been derived that we run across all websites, which is looking at a standard set of functions such as global site search, for instance, which we'll be covering in this webinar today. These two sections then get merged together to create an overall score. So we look at overall effectiveness, which then compiles into our final DSC score. So today we'll be focusing on introducing options and evaluating options. But in terms of what we do measure, we do have an end-to-end process. So we start with initial engagement, which is really how a website presents itself, and then moving into looking at the journey, so starting those pathways from the landing page through to product pages, then really doing a lot more analysis of the product page itself, so the course page in this instance, looking at how that content presents itself to prospective students. We then move into facilitating decisions, which is sort of the last phase of what we can call the consider phase. So this is really the final pieces of content or motivators for students, such as are there any help options such as web chat, frequently asked questions, for instance, is another area that comes up. And then starting to move into the act phase, which is how does the university then present the different channels or pathways for the student to apply, such as are they able to apply by phone or are they only able to apply for the course online. And then we do a full audit as well of the application form. For universities, we focus on the postgraduate application form, which is an online form. So for the study that we conducted between April 6th and May 13th of this year, we looked at 22 universities overall, which was one of our most robust studies that we do across any industry. This actually measured over 650 prospective domestic undergraduate students who helped us with the behavioural section, so very, very robust numbers here. In terms of how your higher learning compares to other industries that we measure, it's actually very, very strong. There is certainly a lot of standardisation that we can see coming through in the basic look and feel of university websites, as well as the key journeys and pathways to journeys. So what this actually says is that it's becoming harder and harder for universities to differentiate themselves to students in creating different experiences and better experiences, but also in that there is very much a familiarity that has been created through the standardization with students, that when they come to a higher learning site, they will be used to being able to search for courses in a certain way. They'll be used to finding courses through certain groupings such as study areas, and this is important to keep in mind because industry standards are really something that need to be adhered to, but then it's working around that as to how you can create newer and better experiences. In terms of other industries, we've really had an uplift in banking, which is one of our strongest sectors overall, and our most recent study for personal loans, we can see that the overall average has really increased to 65%, which is extremely high. So when we start to get into the 60s, we start to see that some of the website starts to move into more personalised journeys. So this is where we see more functionality around returning prospects, for instance. So functionality that caters for those customers who may have left during a point within their previous site experience and then have returned. So they may be picking up from where they left off with the previous quote. Again, there may be some customization in the site itself so that it remembers previous journeys. Overall, for the universities that we measured, we can see that Curtin University ranks as number 1 at 64%. Again, it's extremely tight, where we can see that there are a number of universities on 62%. So Victoria University, they have very strong ACT phase rankings, as well as very strong across the consider phase. They are certainly a university to look at in how they present channels to apply, as well as channels of help. University of Wollongong is another one who performs very strongly overall and has some good functionality around returning prospects. University of Southern Queensland is another university that is quite strong in the overall phase, as well as QUT, and both do extremely well with presenting initial journeys. Again, Curtin is very strong in both consider and ACT, which is why they are at that extra 2%, which is quite significant given the tightness of groupings here. So in terms of what we'll be concentrating on today, so which university's homepages currently best appears to meet needs of prospective undergraduates. So we can see here that when we compare this to the top ranking universities, we can see University of Southern Queensland comes out on top with 83%. So what we actually ask students here is we present them with a static picture of the homepage, and we ask them, based on the homepage and the content that they have within the homepage, does the student feel that this university will be able to meet their needs? So from there they give us a score from out of a ranked system, and this is part of a number of measures as well as a number of features and functions audits that we measure to get this overall score. So we can see here again that there is very much a difference between the top 5 and the rest of the universities, that the top 5 are sitting at 80% and above. So with the nearest ranked Torrens at 78% for homepage. So just looking at some of the top performers here, we can see that both Deakin and Southern Queensland University are very similar look and feel to their homepage. Again, we do know that Deakin has recently updated their website, so we may see some changes in their score in the future study. But what we can see in terms of what is significant is how they present lists of options of courses. So this has been something that we've seen which is significant and a preferred sort of method of entry for course passes or finding courses for students. So we can see here that again the use of icons is significant here. Icons often help customers across all industries to better identify with an area that meets needs. Again, it ties into how customers behave with, emoji and icons with phones. Again, we can see that icons are also a trend that are coming through in top-level navigation as well. So it just further enhances the text header. So we can see here, again, they both have lists that sit above the fold or are accessible and somewhat visible above the fold, which is significant. We then also see that in the case of Deakin, they also have a course search bar, which prompts them to do a more global type search for courses. The other significance as well is in terms of the theme colours, that there is very clear definition between the different sections of the web page, which is again helps students when they're going through, that they can see that when they're in a new section, but also in terms of leading them down the page to show them that there is more content. So we can see here again that there is a slight difference with Southern Queensland University, that they are using a lot more imagery rather than graphic material, and again it's highly visual and interactive as well. So when you hover over that section around their campuses, there will be clear changes to indicate that it is a clickable area, which is also important. So in terms of who are the top ranking universities in presenting pathways to courses, we can see that QUT is actually the lead here at 75%, followed by University of Tasmania, Central Queensland University, Swinburne University, and then Deakin. So again, Deakin and Southern Queensland University, from being sort of the top ranked two universities for homepages, are still performing very strongly with presenting those initial introductions. So we can see that how they are presenting it is working. But what is QUT doing that is a little bit different? So just in terms of having a deeper dive and looking at, again, the efficiency rate, we can see here that the efficiency of how students can find courses within QUT's website is significant, and this is where they are making the difference, and these are the I guess the little things that need to be addressed in terms of providing that differentiation and experience for prospective students. So in terms of the satisfaction, is very, very closely related across all top 5 and the overall industry experience as well. We can also see that the evaluation rate, there is not much separation there as well. But in terms of with QUT, they are sitting at a 90% evaluation rate. What does that mean? It means that only 10% of students felt that they had an issue or a problem when they're actually trying to complete the task. So 10% is very, very low across all industries. Again, we can see that the 90% compared to the 89% effectiveness is very much in line. So again, 10% felt that they had a problem, and we can see that 10% really were only non-successful in the task. So it's very relative there, which is significant. The other key difference, though, is in the efficiency. So what QUT does that other universities don't do quite as well sometimes is the speed in which students can find courses or groups of courses such as business courses. So we can see here that the industry average for finding courses is around 5 clicks within the site and around 3.5 pages, where QUT can get them to course pages or significant groupings of course pages in just 2 clicks and 2 pages. Again, this really drops the time from an industry average of 76% to 42%. If we were to look at all 22 universities, we'd see that there is a huge variance in time frames. So they are very, very, very quick, and certainly the top 5, there is a big disparity between the top 5 and how quickly they get customers, get students through to prospective course pages, as opposed to the other universities where it can be often more complicated. So how are they actually doing this, and what do you need to sort of look at that could potentially improve experiences in your own site? So we can see that there's really a number of key ways that you can introduce courses. So from a home or a landing page, again, there has been a lot of discussion as to whether a study area, for instance, can be a home or landing page, and most definitely it can be. A home or a landing page is really wherever you are directing that traffic to begin their journey. So from the home or landing page, we can see that there are really the help channels, which are potentially entry points to finding course information. We can also see that another traditional or standard method is also main navigation or global search. Some of the non-traditional or some of the more unique experiences that we are seeing coming through are algorithm-based tools and also filtered search tools. So it might not seem like a huge concept, but certainly in how they're being presented is quite different. And again, it's done in a way that makes the experience feel a lot more personal or unique to the actual student who is using that tool. So what will universities performing, who are performing well do with, sorry, I'll start again, I'm tongue-tied today. So what universities are performing well with using traditional pathways to course information? So we're going to now explore a few more universities such as QUT and look at why they are doing this search really well. So we can see that QUT here from the heat maps, that students are really using the list. So this is something that we saw from the landing page examples of Deakin and Southern Queensland University, that really presenting those lists of courses is very, very important. Whilst they do combine the search tool with the lists, we can see that from the heat map that the list is really a more preferred option. Again, we do need to keep in mind that with the task we ask them to find all business courses, but again we don't ask them how. So students are really telling us that they are going through these lists rather than using the courses to find all business courses. But again, it's just something to keep in mind. We have seen this as a bit of a trend that has come through, that when there has been a list and a search tool presented as together, that students often will go to the list over the search tool. Again, we also tend to see that the end experience or the output that is produced by either going through a list or a search tool can be quite different as well, and that also ties back to how effective and how quickly the student can get to the right information, which is ultimately what we want them to get to. So from this journey, we can see here that it's really a 1 or 2 click process, depending on if they go through the study menu or if they go directly from the home page. Again, this information is available above the fold, or the student can easily see that it is available above the fold. And then it takes them straight to all business courses, which is the ultimate page that we ask them to go to. So 86% of visitors click the business list header, which is here underneath browse courses by study area and the below study area. But both headers really take them directly to that page, so very effective. And again, they've only got 2 significant funnels, so they're really keeping their funnels to those course pages very, very tight. So looking at Deakin as well, we can see it's a very similar experience, where again under study at Deakin we can see find courses where 33% are entering, and then from the actual landing page itself we can see that 52% are actually entering from the business tab tile with the icon and then header below that. So again, 82% success rate, so very, very similar success, and we're looking at a very similar amount of click paths where they're going either 3 or 2 depending on where they enter from. So Macquarie University is an interesting one as well, in that they actually are one of a few universities who don't feature a course search tool. They only have a global search tool, which we can see at the top. So in terms of how that helps them to be more successful is that, again, it's just simplifying the overall funnels. So we can see here that 62% of students will actually come through the Find a Course business header. Whereas if they were to type it in the global search, they may get a different output there. So with Macquarie as well, we actually ask them to find all accounting courses. So this is where, again, accounting actually sits under business and doesn't have a unique group header of courses under Find a Course. So students are actually going through the most logical header, which is business. So this is also something to think about in terms of how you group courses. So what is the most logical grouping if, for instance, you are doing something like this where this course isn't necessarily large enough or has a large enough grouping to justify its own header, or there is a huge amount of courses, and so you need to simplify that way as well. So Torrens is another example of someone who does this really well. Again, they don't have as many courses as some of the other universities that we measured, but in terms of how they group their courses and how they present those groupings is certainly significant and something that could be looked at in terms of the functionality with other universities. So we can see here in terms of when they actually do come through the course page, we can see that there are a number of filters at the top of that course page that will help the student to find all of the courses that they are looking for. So these filters really help to improve the experience, and that's something that we are starting to see come through. Again, in terms of how they group them, by grouping them under postgraduate, undergraduate and vocational in the actual page itself, these are all things that are possible for any university to do. Obviously you do need to take into account the volumes of courses, but having these logical headers and logical groupings is significant and certainly something that helps the students and helps Torrens to be quite successful with students who are coming and looking for courses within their site. So just a few tips in terms of, do students use course-specific search bars? Some of the insights that we found over the recent studies and through looking at various universities who do use them and who don't and who have both. So where students have been presented with both a list of study areas and a course-specific search bar, we can see that students overwhelmingly opt to use the list rather than the actual search bar itself. Again, you could even argue in some cases if there is a difference in terms of does the output for a course search bar differ from a global search bar, and does it actually make the overall process easier, or does it actually add complication? And so these are the things that ultimately need to be addressed as to what is going to be the simplest pathway for the student. So this is where, again, having filters and the endpoint is significant of where the entry point is, no matter what the entry point is. So within the task, we also found that students have the most success where they use a defined navigation header to start their journey. Again, this ties back to having two different outputs and two different experiences depending on if they're using a search bar or if they're actually going through a defined navigational header. And then finally, where we have seen the most errors occur in the task of locating courses is where the search tool has been used. Again, in the majority of cases, the output is generally a generic list of all courses or all pages within a site to some degree that have keywords or phrases contained within them, not specifically the course or grouping of courses that a student is potentially looking for that we ask them to do within the task. Something to keep in mind, again, we're not outwardly saying they're bad and get rid of them, but certainly something to keep in mind, and ultimately what we're saying is that it matters in terms of where you're sending the end journey or the output of any entry point to finding courses is what is significant here, in that there is very different experiences from going through a defined header as opposed to a more search or a more global type search experience. So just looking at some of the other industries and how they're presenting their products. So we can see here that NAB, again, have a very high success and satisfaction score for locating their range of credit cards. Again, similar to what Macquarie do and a number of the other universities such as QUT, it's about having repetition and keeping those funnels really, really tight. So again, they have credit cards, for instance, positioned in a number of different areas. So they have it both in their landing page. They also have a needs-based image that accompanies the header, as well as, again, having that header replicated underneath their banking home in their personal drop-down menu in their top-level navigation menu. We can see here that either entry point as well quickly gets them to a page that has all groupings of credit cards. Again, a lot smaller product base to be working with, but in terms of how they're presenting that journey is certainly something that can be replicated, and we can see that this is very similar to what QUT are doing as well. So they actually have a success rate of 82% and score 82% for satisfaction. So extremely high, and again relevant to the success rate that we can see QUT is having as well. So another banking brand, ING, also presents heading and navigation really well. One of the things that ING does is consistency throughout their site. So no matter what product you're looking at or where you are in the site, the navigation look and feel remains very much the same. Where the help channels are is very much the same, and the output and how various functions within pages work is very much the same regardless of where you are in the site. So consistency is very important, and certainly something that can be brought across into how you present information within course pages, but also in terms of understanding those key industry measures such as, grouping study areas together and, top-level navigation, and what are the standards there in universities and higher learning that can be then taken and implemented into a higher learning website. So ING, we can see that they have superannuation in the sub-menu here, and then they present their products individually. So very quick journeys to their product pages. They also present a list of sort of key information to the various tools that can help. So again, the tools are a different way that we will start to look at that can help to present that product information and provide a different experience or a different pathway rather than just simply looking at a course page to finding that information. So HBF as well, we can see that they very much use icons as well as headings to help define the key top-level navigation. You can also see that they repeat this within their top-level nav. So again, what is presented in their landing page for customers is also replicated within their top-level drop-down menu. So that consistency is really, really important, and again, it's working across various industries in terms of creating that success. So now we'll start to look at, again, what is the best way to present help channels within the journey to course information. So ING, again, is another banking brand that does really well with this space. Again, it's all about consistency, but also this is where they start to include contextual information. So even though the location of where the help tab lives on all product pages is consistent, the information or questions of popular searches is always contextual to that product. So it's not generic to ING, it's specific to the product. And this is something that we have not found in a lot of course pages, and something that could be greatly of benefit to prospective students, and something that could really help to not only enhance the overall experience, but is an area of opportunity within the higher learning sector for universities to start adding contextual help information for students through FAQs. We can also see that the use of social media is significant here, where customers can potentially group crowdsource answers to questions, but also in terms of going to the ING social media account and asking them through, for instance, their Twitter account, or even on Facebook if they have questions, depending again where ING wants to direct them. The other thing that they do is just in terms of using all the various animation within their page to present that information. So sometimes FAQs can be a little bit of repetition of information that may already be in the site, but it's just that final presentation, that final measure that helps a student to feel completely satisfied that all of their questions have been answered, and they feel that all of the information they're wanting to get has been sourced, even though they might not necessarily have found it immediately within the landing page, that they've gone through another area and been able to find the questions that way. So Allianz in the UK and Ireland is very, very good at presenting contact information. So you can see that they do this in a number of different ways. So from clearly calling out their phone number, and again having a list of contextual help channels in a very clear call out at the top right of their website. So again, the consistency of placement, where they place that within their product pages, is significant. And they also replicate this in their contact page. So they call out their key channels. So here, if for them it's phone and email. This isn't necessarily the case in Australia, where you're more likely for higher learning for it to be either possibly phone, but maybe FAQs, and then also web chat is something that's increasing as well for higher learning. So having that prioritization in the channels is also important to look at. We can see that they also include opportunities for customers to contact them via a callback service. Callback is something that is starting to emerge within Australia and be more heavily promoted as a service, particularly in the energy sector. We're starting to see that come through, and could be something that could be of benefit within the university sector if there isn't, for instance, a web chat service. And it helps, again, to just add another type of channel or another opportunity for the student to get in contact with that university and keep the conversation going. So real insurance as well, there's a real consistency in terms of presenting phone numbers in very clear locations. So they have their phone number in both their header and their footer. So regardless of where the customer is within their site, they will always have that number immediately visible to them and on hand. The other thing that they do, which is really interesting, is again the way they present their help information. So we can see here that they've really created very clear segments of their different products, so sales, claims, and again the different products from car and life insurance, just through using columns and clear headings to create contextual help information as well, rather than having a general help information section or help information channels. They also have a number of different options, such as a callback service. They also present advocacy in the side of their pages. Again, they have a number of different forms, so they help to sort of cut down on the question, so that when the customer actually does get the call back, that they've already got a lot of information, and they make that experience much simpler for the customer, where they're not necessarily having to repeat themselves on the information. So capturing that information before they actually get the call back. They also do really, really well with providing contextual Q&A. So again, this is a great example, I think, for higher learning, because it shows the amount of work that goes into it, but again, where the benefit is that this is potentially an online channel that provides immediate answers, and again, where you can provide a channel that is able to give immediate answers will always be more powerful than a channel where they'll have to wait to get a response to a question. So here we can see that they've actually got contextual information, not only for their products, but different areas within insurance. So again, they've got claims, contextual questions for claims. You can see that they're also extremely detailed. There is also a standard that they've created within the look and feel of their pages as well, that within the right-hand side they've got a number of promotional areas and also helpful links. So again, they promote their phone number to say you can always call us, so that is always on hand, as well as it being in the header of the page as well. We can see that they've got some key call-outs to their product disclosure statement. So again, this is where privacy information could be relevant within higher learning, and then resources as well. So this could potentially be events that may be related to a course or a study area. It could even be contact information for a faculty, anything that is contextual really to the course that may be helpful to prospective students. So Energy Australia as well is does really, really strongly and scores 91% with their application form on their mobile site. So it's actually a replication of their form on desktop, but it even performs better on mobile. One of the reasons that they perform so highly is of all the security measures that they put in place within their form. So we can see here at the very top in their header, they have a very clear call out to the security of information, 100% secure checkout. When customers go through their form, they can feel that no matter what the information they put through, that it won't be necessarily taken out by hackers or again used for purposes other than actually just applying. The other thing they do as well is they've always got this need help and make the help channels very clear, no matter where the customer is within the page, and also presenting the pathway to application as well. So very clear in terms of providing those expectation management content measures, such as pathways, again, how long potentially it might take to do an online application, what the sort of next steps are as well in the journey. They also actually provide sort of an area as well to capture those who have maybe tried to exit the application form, but then again prompting them to save it so they can come back and do it later, or again continue with the quote if they'd accidentally hit an exit point as well. In terms of the help information that they provide, we can see very clearly that they prioritise the phone number within the mobile help number, but they also have a number of options in terms of FAQs below as well. And also in terms of that request to call that we said was starting to come through. So they continue these help measures and these guidance measures as well within the form field itself. So again, having the difference in the highlight colour, they could obviously be stronger here, but definitely there is a difference between a field that is completed, we can see is darker, to one that hasn't been entered, which is lighter. They also have the green tick as well, which helps to say, sorry, it's gone back too far. Sorry, the green tick as well that says this has been entered and you can go on to the next field. Again, we can see that the tick there is grey as well, so that also is another way that guides them. It says you haven't entered in this field yet. Again, the logical flow of fields as well, and then always having contextual help that can be opened up around when they're asking for information that may be questionable or may not be something that a customer is familiar with. So it could provide contextual help to say this is why we need this information, or again it may be around helping to manage their expectations and say we need this information because it's going to make it easier for us to contact you, or again give you a more accurate quote is often something that will be called out. So again, they also call out the next step. So what happens now after the customer has actually completed the form, and then before they actually finally agree, they also provide a content call out around a measure of reassurance to say this is really why you should press that final button and sign up with us, because we're really going to take care of you. There's certainly something that can definitely be replicated and something we measure in the current experience in the consider phase as well as part of those facilitating decisions. So Victoria University, I mentioned earlier, is somebody in the higher learning sector who is doing contact information really, really strongly. So we can see here that within the Contact Us button there is a drop down. Again, this section actually remains open, so until the student actually presses the close button, all of that contact information will be visible to them. We can also see in terms of how they group that together, makes it very, very clear. Again, there is also a very clear call out for their immediate help channel, which is web chat. They also provide the hours of operation, so it gives some context as to when they can communicate through that channel, and also shows them that yes, we do have this. So if they're in a time outside of say 6 p.m. And the service won't be working, but they know that if they come back the next day that the service will be working after 9 o'clock. Again, it also provides them the local time, so you can see again for the student they can go, well, that's probably why it's not working as well. But they also provide numbers. Again, they've got numbers for future students as well as general security inquiries, again international students, so that differentiation in the numbers is also key. So something that we mentioned as well, which is web chat. So web chat is certainly a channel that is growing as a preference or as a need in the help range of help channels that we measure within higher learning. We can see that it's almost in line with the expectation for banking, which is quite interesting. There's not quite as big a growth rate among other sectors that we measure, but higher learning is, you know, a 5% growth rate, which is significant. So if you aren't actually looking at web chat, certainly I would advise that this is an area or a functionality that you should start to consider to include as a service in the future. So sports betting is an industry that uses web chat quite strongly, and again they really focus on using it purely as a help channel. So there's a couple of different ways that we've seen brands present web chat services. So the first way, or the way that I always potentially advocate, is presenting it as a help channel, but a channel that is engaged with rather than as a prompt channel. So they have the button. What I mean by engage is that the, again, customer or prospective student opens up the application itself rather than the application appearing to them. So they want to engage with that channel. So by actually including it in a grouped amount of buttons, such as the login button for their member services, again next to the call out of help, they very clearly present the chat service as a help channel. So it's not something that's going to necessarily impede their experience or their research within the site, but that the customer knows that it's always there for them if they want to engage that service, and as sort of a final facilitator of their decision to then make a bet with William Hill. So we can see within the services themselves that there are the options to both print the chat or email the chat. So having that ability to save the chat is very important. Again, also showing the security of the chat itself, so that when they are actually having the conversation, that whatever information is entered or discussed is secure. William Hill also include a measure of performance at the end of their chat, so they just ask a series of quick questions which asks about if the experience was helpful, what would they rate the knowledge of the agent, so they can do a bit of internal performance and again do some test and learn and develop the tool to make an even better experience for the customer in the future. So CrownBet very similarly grouped together their web chat service with their phone number and present that as a list of help options within their global navigation header. So we can see here that it's a channel that is engaged with rather than a prompt channel. Again, how they present it in their desktop is replicated within their mobile. So that consistency of where the service is located and where the customer can then engage with that service regardless of what device they are on is something to be noted. Again, how they actually measure performance is much shorter and more simply that they have a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which we can see in their actual web chat window. Again, they also do call-outs before they actually begin the chat around security of information and also in terms of guiding what should and shouldn't be provided in the conversation, such as credit card information. So one of the different ways that we spoke about is through prompting. We know that a number of banks actually use this method, and the reason that it actually could potentially provide a different experience is that it may provide a skew in the overall journey or the output of based on the conversation that is had. So where a customer engages with a web chat service, they're actually still browsing, they're still doing a more traditional search and research within the site and using potentially more traditional search methods, whereas when web chat is opened within potentially the first 5 seconds of when they come online, that can then either create a bit of dissonance in terms of a bit of annoyance or an extra click in their overall experience. But if they do start to have a chat with the service, that again, it may not allow them to research and find the information in the way that they're used to doing it, so they could end up with a different output. Not saying it's a negative experience, but certainly it does change the way that a customer gets to either the product or the course information. So again, what are some of the trends that we're starting to see come across all industries with presenting pathways to product or course information? So something that you may be aware of is a new product that has come out by Deakin University. It's called Explore. Again, this is really highlighting careers as a pathway or as sort of an entry point to finding courses, as well as also traditional course pathways. So really catering to two key audiences, those who are wanting to find a course based on the career that they want, or those who actually already know what course they want and then might have that information as secondary to them. So within this tool as well, there's a number of opportunities for Deakin to provide functionalities to capture returning journeys. So again, there's the option to create an account so they can start to create a community of prospective students within the tool. Again, they can also, the student can then save lists as well. So it works both ways in terms of as a benefit for the student in that they have something that they can go back and refer to, but also in terms of how that allows Deakin to then communicate with that prospective student based on what they may or may not know from the data they capture within this tool. So within the tool itself, as being a new tool, there's a really nice soft introduction to the tool that kind of says, this is essentially how you use the tool. This is what you're going to get out of it. So you can either find courses or you can find careers. You can then very easily filter the results. You can then compare courses. So comparison is a really big thing within the tool, and one of the key benefits that it provides to students is not only saying, here's a course, but potentially here are other courses that may also be what you need. And again, this is where you can start to introduce the different pathways. So again, if they don't necessarily have an enter or the entry requirements that meet the bachelor degree, there might be some diploma or certificate based courses that could be a pathway to getting to that degree, and they can present those as well. So when we actually look at how they present the filters are very simple. So you can hide the filters, you can expand the filters so it doesn't necessarily impede looking at it from the list perspective that it comes out in. The filters themselves are also buttons, so it's very, very quick. Easy to click, and then they're all visible as well up front for the prospective student. So we can see here as well in terms of how they present the actual style of the content. They've gone for a very, very graphic look, but certainly it could be adaptable that you could very easily add in some needs-based imagery behind that. Again, the headers are very clear, so they've kind of color grouped the different courses as well. So it's all helping to make it easy for students to see both study areas and also in terms of just when they're filtering through their output lists that they get through using the tool. So just in terms of the different pathways, we can see that regardless of where the student comes in, whether they actually start their search through looking at a career, so they want to be a 3D architectural modeller, again, ultimately they all end up at the course page, so the Bachelor of Design for Architecture, which is what is of benefit to Deakin. So the student always has that same output. This is the same conundrum that we saw was happening within the different entry points within higher learning pages, whether they're going through a list, which is a set navigation header, or going through a course or global search. So the output is the same, is really, really key here. We can also see that the information as well and how they present that is, again, that use of icons, again, very clear defined headers, the different columns and table as well. So again, the length of time, the entry requirements, very high level, and again, they've also included areas to save that content, and again, also share it through social media as well. So Seek Learning, or the concept of looking at careers, is something that a number of aggregators or higher learning aggregators have been doing for a while. So Seek Learning certainly used that kind of career or finding a course via a career as a key driver for how they present course information. So they actually have a series of pages around careers. So we can see this is an example of project or program administrator. So they call out some key information around salary in terms of what are the average salaries within that industry, what is the minimum and maximum, what type of job growth is there, which is quite interesting as well. So again, is it actually worth looking at this as an industry, or is it more of an industry that is declining, where there might be harder for them to start a career in that area. It also looks at region as well, so this can also be significant to a student, and particularly in terms of what university might be best based on where they're located, but also in what caters for the region that the industry is most relevant to. It also, the other area that they do, which we spoke about before, was really looking at those entry pathways. So they don't just promote the one course, they promote a pathway to courses. So they call it a career pathway planner. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that that's the correct way of promoting it, but certainly in terms of having those starting out courses, which are the certificates, again, the introductory courses, and then starting to move into the more longer term or again higher qualification courses, so the diplomas, moving into again degrees and bachelor degrees, and then moving into even then master's degrees potentially, or honours with bachelor as well. So showing the overall what could be achieved or where they can go, and this is something again that kind of is a bit of not necessarily an upsell, but just something good for the student to know if they are very academically minded and wanting to get that next level as well, understand what the next level is within their industry. So NAB Credit Cards has a very similar tool to the Explore tool, where it's called Find the Right Card for You. So again, we can see that they introduce this very clearly and very quickly within their landing page, so sitting above the fold. Again, there's very clear call-outs in their language. It says, help me choose the right card. So again, it's really about personalising or creating a more personalised experience in how they find credit card information. And we can see from there it's a quick tool, and the tool is actually located further down within the landing page. So having that tool within the landing page means that they're cutting down the time to get to that tool, but also that they're not having to leave the page and they're staying engaged with the landing page. So they can always go back to other information and go through other start points or journey points that may be available within the landing page. So the tool is actually just 6 steps. So again, we start with which credit card is right for you. They then have a series of really simple options. So we can see that again there's a high use of graphics within the tool. They very much use their theme colours, so there's consistency in the look and feel. Again, with point 4, there's a very clear differentiation between this is where they target customers who may be more price focused or want to have the best rates, and then they also target those customers who may prefer to have an overall offer, or the overall offer may be more appealing to them than the actual just having cheap or low rates. They also include partner brands and logos, so this helps to build trust within the tool and within the final output that says, so if they have gone through the earning rewards section, again, if they're a frequent flyer member, if they're a Velocity member, again, it's just helping to build that satisfaction with the customer. Oops, sorry, my keypad's being very sensitive today. So just in terms of the final output as well, what is significant is really in terms of having not just the one output of the credit card, but the 2 options. So still providing that option to compare to the prospective customer, and not just saying this is ultimately the right one. So choice is really important. It's another measure in terms of that final facilitation that says, okay, this is really the one that I want to go with. This is the one that I feel is right for me, but it's also good to know that this is available too. And it also shows the customer as well, or creates perception that the brand is really understood and listened to the customer as well by presenting 2 options. So just in terms of some of the functionality, and again the ways that they make this tool feel personal. So again, they've made it quite visual even within the text itself. So using very visual and different fonts is quite interesting. Again, the theme colours, the use of needs-based graphics and images, using the buttons to make it really, really simple, and having the highlight colour to illuminate which option has been selected before they move on. The inclusion of the partner logos is really key to helping build trust. And then finally also showing those actual visuals of the product themselves, which can be a final clincher. The use of the tables to show complex information around rates and fees, dot points as well to show benefits, and really providing all information but in a simple way that's digestible and not necessarily overwhelming to the customer. So RAMS as well is another brand in a different sector who use a similar type tool, a savings calculator tool. So this is a more algorithm-based tool. and again it's located within their landing page for their mortgages. So it actually provides 3 different types of way to calculate, but ultimately the output is really the same. So they can either do how much could I save, how long to reach my savings goal, how much interest could I earn. Ultimately it's all leading to what is the best product for me based on my information that I'm inputting. Again, they score 77% for evaluation of options. So again, just presenting those 3 different ways to calculate savings. So 3 Mobile in the UK provide a number of measures of search. So again, they do have an actual tool similar to NAB where there is a personalised way of doing it, but they also provide a number of traditional measures. So within the left-hand side of their page, they have a filter by menu. So again, they use accordion drop-downs to again make all of the filters appear more simply, but again also provide more options to the potential customer if they choose to engage with them. They also have again a sort by bar as well, so sort by recommended, so it can just do a much quicker search and cut down and again allow them to search either by price or again by brand name, all of these type of searches. And then they've got the obviously help me choose bar, which is leading into their tool, which is this thing here. So again, very similar to NAB, we can see that they use click buttons where, again, not quite as visual, but they use language that's very conversational, feels very personal. You can imagine it's very similar to an experience where you would go in to a telco store and, you know, the salesperson would be asking you, okay, so what kind of phone are you looking for? What's your data usage like? You know, how much do you really want to pay a month? All these kind of standard questions, and they've turned this into a basic filter tool. We can see that the output as well, that they actually go a step further and not just provide 1 or 2 options, but they actually provide the full list. So there's the option for the customer to be able to go through not only the next best choice, but also all of the alternatives, and then there's even more alternatives to that. So they can really feel like they're comparing and getting that right choice even after going through that personalised experience. So again, still keeping them engaged, providing them with options, and again is the most important thing. So VHI as well, different industry, looking at insurance and a completely different style. They actually almost create a bit of a story for their customer, and again the interesting thing that they use is really the text-based style that they use is quite different to any other industry and brand that we've actually looked at. So you can see here that they're actually drop down. So I would like cover for, and this is actually a drop down list when you use the tool. So you can choose myself only, you can choose family, all of these different types of options. It then goes on to create a file. So I'm 30 years old, maternity care is part of the importance to me, no other care is particularly important to me. So all these different options that they're capturing, which start to build an overall story or picture of their prospective customer. We can see that the more information the customer provides as well, the fewer options, or the smaller the group of options is presented to them. So again, it feels more personalised. It feels like, okay, we're starting to help you cut through the 73, you know, products that potentially, you know, we have that could help you. The other sort of benefit as well is that they're showing that they have so many products as well that it's, you know, you don't need to go to another provider. We've got 36 products that you can choose from, so you're bound to find the right product amongst all of that group, as well as cutting them down through the filtering, which is interesting. So another brand as well is Virgin Media in the UK. So their tool very much is targeting around that upsell, so but starting through building a package as well. So this idea of building a package is something that's coming through. So you start by checking the different type of product that you want, so phone or TV or broadband. Again, they've got a number of measures that show, again, how long or where you are in the journey, including the different brands. So they actually have direct comparison to their competitors. So if you're on another product, you can actually compare directly, which is really interesting way of doing it. It's probably quite difficult to do within the higher learning industry, but just something to keep in mind in terms of that direct comparison. In terms of their output, we can see that the overall output is very much around, again, yes, continue, so then they actually go to the sign up section, but also in saying you may also like this, or you can also add this, and just providing the number of different ways that the customer can then filter their product to find that ultimate product for them. So again, in Australia, Foxtel is an example of a entertainment provider who's doing a very similar style of build your own package. So I'd highly recommend you going and checking out their site and just having a play. Again, it's really, really simple in that there's a list of different options. So for instance, could you actually create a bit of a questionnaire, or again, look and see, are there similarities with students who might choose law, for instance, or might choose business courses, and can we start to, help to create a tool that by answering a number of questions we can then say, well, maybe you should actually look at some law courses, or look at, business courses, depending on what their personality or their beliefs or, again, interest areas are. We can also see again that with customizing the package that actually builds the package as well. So again, showing that as the customer goes through and uses the tool, that they can see that it's building, they can see the differentiation. So probably very difficult to customize a course, but in terms of the functionality and where they're showing that key information is significant. Again, using the accordions to simplify the overall information, using icons to highlight the key benefits or different types of products or features within the product. And then finally, sort of looking at Vodafone as well. So very similar to the 3 experience, where they've really taken that in-store experience and turned that into a basic algorithmic tool of options. So again, every option is clickable, so very easy to change. It highlights the different colours when an option is selected, and then ultimately at the bottom puts out, this is the package that is right for you. So just in terms of a couple more examples, just looking at, again, the energy industry. So again, something that they use obviously is coming through our calculators. So the key takeout here is really the 2 different types of pathways that Sumo actually provide to prospective energy customers. So they've got one that caters to those which are really price focused, which says check out our prices, and the other key entry point is around that comparison and comparing the bills. So this is where you could say, okay, so here are our courses, and then the other option for our higher learning is here is how we can potentially compare courses or careers and have a bit more of a comparison experience in the overall journey. So again, 2 different types of tools. Again, uses interactive animation, very simple to use, and then actually moves on to the product page. So just a bit more of a softer entry rather than going straight to the courses, in terms of getting to understand the customer a little bit more and engaging with the customer before they continue on in the experience, so getting them engaged. So again, German energy company, How Easy. Again, they very much use a similar style. I won't spend too much time on these examples, just conscious of the time. So again, they use colour to differentiate the different products. So again, just making it easier for customers to be able to filter through the different products through the use of icons and colours. Again, they keep it all within their landing page. So again, having those icons work as page anchors within the page. So certainly something that could be done within higher learning pages through using page anchors, or even within course pages as well. So again, the other thing that they do, which is something that could be done in terms of how you compare the different courses, is they actually promote one course over the other. So they show overall 3 options, but they use an icon, which is that yellow tag that we can see in the top right corner of the product that's actually sticking out or highlighted against the other products, to say this is ultimately the right one for you, but here is a couple of others that you can look at and compare it as well. They also provide some other measures such as, again, their rating. So again, more information that supports that this is not only the right product but the right company. And again, the option to share and do some crowd research as well through social media. And then finally, in terms of the application form, again, just making sure that they present all of those help channels. You can see they have web chat followed by phone number and then frequently asked questions. They also have an existing member login as well. What we can see as well, similar to Foxtel, is that they show an aggregated example of the customer information that they've already put in. So the customer can say, okay, so this is what I've told you, this is what you've given me. So something that could be similar for the postgraduate application in terms of if you're using a tool that's capturing certain information before they get to the application, can you then start to integrate that into the application to make the overall application experience shorter or better for the prospective student? So what are the real considerations with courses for search? So again, funneling those entry points around, relatable needs-based group headings. So study areas is really key, and certainly one of the key trends that we see in higher learning and key standards really across the entire industry. It also tends to be the quickest way or the most used way by students in terms of how they get to the grouped course pages that we ask them to do within the behavioural tasks. So search experiences need to be consistent. So again, it's really, you can obviously present a number of different start points, but that end journey or the output is what matters, and that is where you need to kind of funnel that end output, and that needs to be consistent, even though how the student got there might be a little bit different. So the reason that you would have different start points is that it caters to a wider amount of students in terms of how they like to engage and research within the site. But ultimately, they all are looking for the same thing, is what we're trying to say. So again, limiting variation of the start point functionality could be a way of doing it, but certainly repeating those high value headers. So again, those study area pages or course area pages, they're a key priority, and where you put them within top navigation or sub-menus, side-based menus as well. Again, consider presenting a study area based or related as a standalone vertical in your menus. So again, just having, rather than having study areas as part of a, about the university or prospective students group header, is just having study areas as a top-level navigation menu to really shorten those journeys to finding courses. Again, presenting study area headers as a list option within the homepage, and then replicating that within top-level navigation. So if you're not really including those lists or those priority headers of courses that students potentially might come to you because you have great business courses, so make sure that you're including that in the landing page if you can. So again, explore relatable topics, so like definitely careers or student segments that presents journeys to course information in a different way. So like we saw with the Explore tool with Deacon, again, careers are a bit of an identifier or potentially a motivator for certain types of students who select certain types of courses. So if you look more deeply, do you see similar traits or similar interests with students who choose certain courses, and can you kind of create that into a bit of an algorithm or a bit of a simple form, I guess, that can help to funnel students as to helping them find what is the right study area potentially for them, or what are the potentially right courses for them. So don't just present one course option. Again, make sure there's comparable courses or study areas that can be easily accessed, when they are within a course page as well. So having that comparison of courses is really important. Those universities who score really highly for presenting course information do present course comparisons. So this is where, again, having functionality like returning prospects, so being able to favourite or create lists of courses that customers can compare that, or students can compare that way. Again, having different courses at the bottom of the page that says after they've gone through all of that information, this might also be another option for you, for instance, just to show them that the university has more options or more courses that could potentially cater to that student. Again, providing help channels that offer contextual information. So providing immediate answers is really key, and they need to be specific to either study areas or you know, even better if it was the course itself. So having contextual phone numbers, having FAQs. It will definitely be a little bit of effort to put together some FAQs, but once they're up there, it could provide a lot of benefit to students. Again, keeping those general channels and contextual channels very clearly defined so that the student knows what is the right area or group of channels to go to if they're wanting to find course-specific information as opposed to general help information with the university. So just to give you a little bit of insight as to who we are. So again, we're a digital consumer analytics company, and we provide a range of competitor intelligence through a range of products that we offer. So we operate across Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Ireland and various European markets, and we're founded in 2000. So we have a range of syndicated programs that we offer. All of the data that you've seen today has come through our higher learning syndicated program, but certainly some of the other companies and areas we work within is in the banking sector. We also work within energy, sports betting, insurance, and we also work within travel as well, and a few other industries there, here and overseas. So just in terms of what you have seen today, again, it's a very high level and very simplified amount of information in one particular area of interest that we came across in higher learning. But when you are a client, there's certainly a breadth of information that you will have. We don't just focus on the industry that you're in, we also look to derive best practice insight from other industries that we measure as well. So there's a huge amount of information that is available to our clients than what you've just seen. So if you do have any more information, please do get in touch with Darren Watson, who's our Senior Commercial Director for Higher Learning. So I will just take a moment to see if there's any questions that have come through. Please do send through your questions if you do have any questions that you'd like me to answer from today's presentation. Yep. So we've just got the one question. So we do have a lot more information on web chat. We actually recently did a large sort of presentation focused on web chat, which we gave to our clients. Again, it's not something that at this stage we're making available to non-clients, but again, it did cover in terms of where web chat is in terms of a need across a number of industries, how best it can work in terms of with the overall journeys, as well as what is the best sort of practice around functionality, what are the sort of things to keep in mind if you're looking to implement web chat. We are looking at doing a series or a number of different specific kind of presentations on those areas, on various key areas like web chat for our clients as well. So any more questions? Yep. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to send them through. We can answer them post-presentation. And thank you very much for joining us today. I hope it's been of benefit to you.